Newcastle lead 6 points to nil.
The last time the two sides clashed at the International Sports Centre back in 1984, Great Britain won 28-18. In the past, it's been the Newcastle rep side taking on the Poms, but tomorrow it will be the Knights. The Lions have not lost a game in Newcastle since 1962 and will arrive tomorrow for the game which kicks off at 3 p.m. The near-test side will include Gary Schofield and Ellery Hanley, who played in the 1984 game. One man in the Knights team who knows what to expect from the English is Tony Kemp, who 2 years ago played a season with second division team Doncaster.
Attractive football, you know, running the ball around and big players out wide hitting gaps. They've got good footballers in their team, especially with Ellery Hanley and Andrew Gregory in the halves, and we're expecting a tough game from them.
What about the Newcastle fellows? Are they expecting a win over the Englishmen?
Yeah, they're going to go out there and give everything they've got, and like every other Sydney football game we play each Sunday, you know, everyone goes and gives 100%, and we're just hoping for a win.
Balmain led 12-8 at half-time this season. Early in the second half, Glenn Miller to the centres and regathered the ball. With New Zealand coach Tony Gordon expected to be at the game, who scored the 95-kilogram Kiwi will be hoping for another good game and possibly a spot in the New Zealand Test team to play England after their Australian tour.
I've been gearing up for this game all season, really, with the Great Britain tourists going over New Zealand in July. I just want to be in the New Zealand Test team playing them.
Do you reckon you got the form to be in the side?
Well, I'm pretty happy with my form, and I don't know whether the selectors back in New Zealand have been watching us over here, but going on my form now, I think myself, you know, hopefully I'll be in that New Zealand team.
All up, 180 people, including television and sports personalities, but all players containing at least one celebrity. Organiser of today's impressive list of celebrities was David Fordham.
Good afternoon, I'm Helen Hughes. In tonight's NBN News, nurses at Morisset answer scathing criticism about conditions at fifth schedule hospitals. Some of the wards have been described as inhumane and unfit for both patients and nurses.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
Ward 21 is home to the criminally insane. The maximum security section of Morisset is slated in a review commissioned by the previous government and suppressed until the change of power. In the report released by Health Minister Collins, quality of life behind the bricks and bars is said to be subhuman. The hospital, like the state's other fifth schedule institutions, is considered lacking in its procedures and standard of care. But the nurses say the review is loaded with lies, that the previous Labor government was trying to make fifth schedule hospitals the scapegoat for a failing health system. Branch President John Lockhart. Let's take specific criticisms that procedures are administered as punishment rather than treatment.
Incorrect. Certainly incorrect.
That excessive tranquilisers are used on patients.
No, certainly not.
Ward 21 has been described as inhumane and unfit for both patients and staff. How would you respond to that?
Well, I disagree.
Ward 21 houses criminally insane patients for the whole of New South Wales, a stressful job for nurses who assume the role of prison officers.
We're dealing with people who have committed crimes, who have been proved and found to be not guilty on the grounds of psychiatric illness. Now, once that decision is made, they are transferred here to Morisset in an environment which is of a secure nature so that they cannot get to the general public and commit those crimes again.
But on Monday, a man charged with murder did escape from Ward 14. He was picked up without incident and is now in the maximum security section.
He was a dangerous patient, and due to that, once a dangerous patient gets out at Morisset, then all hell breaks loose, as the word goes, and The inquiries are initiated, the public are concerned, which we wholeheartedly support, and the staff members are concerned that these incidents do happen.
At one stage, John Lockhart worked in Ward 21 for 2 years, but he would prefer not to return because of death threats from a patient. He says 8 staff members have been assaulted by one person during the past 7 days. In an environment where workers must expect the unexpected, he says every effort is made to deliver a high standard of care. Meanwhile, Health Minister Collins also revealed today details of a second report he says Labor suppressed. It outlines the case of a woman who was locked away in a Sydney psychiatric hospital for 40 years despite being recommended for conditional leave. In another case, a 64-year-old man found unfit to plead remained locked in a maximum security prison despite a judge's order to transfer him to hospital. The Minister says he'll act on the report immediately.
Tonight in the news we go to Maitland to examine the effect of the city's major bicentennial project, the High Street Mall. While attempts are being made to attract customers during construction of the mall, some businesses say they're losing customers.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
In tonight's NBN News, the coal industry warns Australia's climbing dollar could have a devastating effect on Hunter Valley Mine. In tonight's NBN News, the coal industry warns Australia's climbing dollar could have a devastating effect on Hunter Valley mines. Steaming coal contracts are yet to be settled, and if the dollar keeps soaring, producers could suffer big losses.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
Newcastle's world champion hang glider pilot Rick Duncan has been invited to fly in the opening ceremony of the Seoul Olympics in September. Performing in front of a worldwide television audience, Rick will be towed up behind a speedboat beside the main arena.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
Construction work began on the mall in April. It will be officially opened in September. But in the meantime, some retailers are feeling the effects of construction work. John Lane promotes the business district. Since construction began, he says some retailers have had an increase in trade, but he concedes there have been problems.
It's a major undertaking. Like, you don't often have a 6-foot trench right outside your door and jackhammers and backhoes, so they're the obvious difficulties. But where possible, we're trying to overcome those difficulties by making sure that access is still available, and we've got a promotion campaign based on retail sales to offset any downturn that may be there.
I notice some shops are in fact closing down. Is that because of this work?
I don't believe so. There was one store that has nominated it as closing down, but they've been made that intention since last Christmas, so I don't believe that's a direct result.
Sherry's Den is on the northern side of High Street. Proprietor Nona de Moore says she's experienced a 60% downturn in trade. She says her decision to close was partly because of what she saw happening with construction of the mall.
I could see great trauma for the shop proprietors in that I have travelled right throughout Europe and I've seen lots of malls operating, and I've never seen lopsided malls such as what High Street is going to get here, whereas we have no rear access at the back. And I feel that the council also has not looked at the real problem, and that is the parking, which was our problem right from the very beginning.
She says many other retailers are in a similar situation, but won't speak out because they want to protect their shops and might want to sell them in the future. Rosalie Borelli of Hot Property Fashion says she's experienced her worst week ever. She pays $500 a week rent, and on Monday she took $10. She also says the lack of parking on the northern side of the street has contributed to her problems and may close if sales don't improve. Other affected businesses include the Lotus Garden Chinese restaurant and PJ's Records, but there is hope for improved sales.
Newcastle's mall has always given me a lot of confidence. That was great, so same here.
Meanwhile, project manager Richard Bennett of the Maitland City Council says removed car parking spaces will be replaced with angle parking at either end of the mall.
But you've
Richard
come up with some other
Brownette,
staffing
organiser
figures.
for the
What
Bus
are they?
Employees Union, says passengers will be asked to back drivers in a campaign against the steep increases. The delegates meeting this morning was told that far from the 12.5% increase admitted by the government, some charges have doubled.
The figures that we're working out as is 66.66% in most cases, up to a maximum of 100%. Some of the cases that we've come across is from Newcastle to the museum, where it was 60 cents, it's now $1.
That's of course the minimum fare gone up,
That
isn't
is
it?
the minimum fare. But then you go to the other sections where it has gone from $1.20 to $2 and from $1.50 to $3, and that is more than the 12.5%.
Well, what's say like a long route like from Belmont into town, how much would that cost and what's the difference?
Right, Belmont into Newcastle Road at the moment it's $1.50, it is increasing to $3, which is a 100% increase.
Well, what do you think people are going to make of all this?
Well, the people will not be able to afford public transport to come into the city, and thus that'll create buses running around with no one on them, that'll cut in services and it'll mean loss of jobs in the long run.
Happening now as they can see
Spokesman for Newcastle FM, Mike Webb, said all the appeal achieved was to delay the implementation of commercial FM radio in Newcastle by 12 months more than necessary.
But you could sort of...
It's been a very frustrating period of time for us, as you can imagine. But I would imagine that the tribunal, following the court's redirection, didn't want to make a mistake again, so they took their time over it.
Of course, the other parties this time have another month anyway to appeal. Do you think that could happen again?
I hope not, for everybody's sake, especially Newcastle, because we would have had the station on air Australia Day this year for the bicentennial. As it stands now, it looks like it'll be Australia Day next year, if we're lucky. So really, the people of Newcastle have missed out on the opportunity for a new commercial FM station in the bicentennial year.
Well, has this delay meant that you've been able to look again at the whole project and come up with something different for Newcastle? What can we expect?
Something different. It'll certainly be new and different to what people have got in their existing AM stations now. As to its reception, it's a matter of a feel for the marketplace. It'll be fresh, it'll be new people, it'll be new music, and it'll be on FM in real stereo, clear stereo. So just the mere fact that it's going to be there is something.
State Environment Minister and Assistant Minister for Transport Tim Moore visited Mile Lakes today. While there, he flew over the Mungo Brush to Silver and officially opened the Tea Gardens Lions Club Bicentennial Project, the Mungo Track. The track is a 42-kilometre system created with assistance from the National Parks and Wildlife Service. While the crowd was undoubtedly pleased with the track, they'll have to wait to find out the future of the adjoining Mungo Brush to Seal Rocks Road. The road is often used as a link from Hawk's Nest to Seal Rocks and was originally established for use by sand mining companies. There's no sand mining now, but many, including the Great Lakes Council and the Mile Waterways Tourist Association, want to keep the road open. The National Parks and Wildlife Service wanted it closed on June the 1st. But Mr Moore says the future of the road won't be decided until he has all the facts.
I guess a decision is probably 6 to 8 weeks away.
Whether or not the road is closed, what will that depend on?
It'll depend on a variety of things, the environmental consequences of keeping it open and the cost to the National Parks and Wildlife Service of doing so, and whether anybody else is prepared to pay for keeping it open if it is to keep open.
Would the government consider funding it?
Well, I don't know, that's a question of how well Mr Turner and I could twist the Minister for Roads' arms if we decided to go that way, but it's a very expensive proposition on preliminary advice to keep it open properly and safely.
How much would it cost?
More than $3 million.
While also concerned about the road, member for Mile Lakes, John Turner, is also busy as a newly appointed member of the government's Backbench Committee to assist and advise the Attorney General. He had input into the recently passed Summary Offences Act.
Very exciting. And that does have, I guess, some input into this electorate in this area and your viewing area, because it gives police bigger powers to deal with street crime.
Green and gold boxing kangarooism, which passes for national sentiment. He says this.
Overnight and morning rain was an answer to the night's prayers. It had turned the ISC into a bog and in turn severely slowed down the Sharks' speedy back line. Both sides wanted to play the game in the opposition's half, with the Knights on many occasions kicking on the first tackle deep into Cronulla territory. The Knights drew first blood in the 20th minute when a Glenn Friendo chip bounced the right way for Glenn Miller. 5 minutes later, the Sharks struck back through winger Glenn Coleman, who scooted in out wide. Ettinghausen scored Cronulla's second try to give the Sharks a 10 points to 4 lead at half-time. Tony Kemp, back to his old position of centre, showed his awesome strength to bust through 2 defenders and tie the game up 10-all. In the final 10 minutes, the Knights tried valiantly to get close to the posts for a shot at field goal, but on each occasion, the defence was too quick. After today's performance, the Knights must start favourite to beat Easts in Sydney next weekend.
Sit she high or sit she low, be she far off or be she near. There is no bird so fair, so fine, no yet so fresh as this of mine. For when she once hath felt her feet, Philip will cry, still yet. For when she once hath felt her feet, Philip will cry, still yet. Come in the morning merrily, when Philip hath been lately fair, or in an evening soberly, when Philip list to go to bed. It is a hand to hear my feet, how she can chirp with merry lip. For when she once hath felt her feet, Philip will cry still yet. For when she once hath felt her feet, Philip will cry still yet.
After a 2-hour meeting today, Northern District Amalgamated Metal Workers Union members voted in favour of common employment seniority at both the Pacific and Stockton borehole collieries. The vote follows BHP's plans to retrench 84 union members.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
Northern District Metal Workers Union members met today to decide the employment issue with the amalgamation of the Pacific and Stockton borehole collieries and BHP's planned acquisition of the West Wallsend No. 2 colliery. About 800 attended the meeting. The Metalworkers Union has 221 employees at the 3 operations. BHP plans to retrench 84 of them on June the 20th. A vote was taken in favour of taking common seniority employment at the 2 mines to be amalgamated.
They've recognised the employment seniority dates at both Pacific and Stockton Borehole collieries, and accordingly the amalgamated mine will be manned up in accordance with their line of seniority of when they commenced at either one of those collieries.
Although it was a majority vote, some say the final decision makes a mockery of seniority.
Well, there was individual comments that went both ways on it. Of course, it's a very emotional issue. What we're faced with is the company's decision to retrench 84 members of ours, and regardless of which way the membership voted on that seniority, we were still faced with those retrenchments.
It's thought today's decision opposes that of the Miners' Federation, which it's believed recognises Stockton Borehole as the senior mine.
I understand they've made a determination as an individual union to recognise the seniority of one mine over the other. That was their right to do that. It was the feeling of the vast majority of our members that we had to travel in a different direction, and we've chosen to do that.
The union now plans to continue talks with Coal and Allied to try and persuade the company to keep the Stockrington and Wallsend borehole collieries open.